And we're live, and it's just loading.
We're live.
So here we go. We're live, Matthew, in the on Facebook. So
Facebook land.
This is me, Jason, and Matthew Ashdown.
Ashdown.
Yeah.
And we're here to engage you for the next 30 minutes or so here. And this week's topic is one that I know a lot of people who are watching this who are quite empathic. It's most of the people in my circles these days. I don't know about you, Jason.
Yep.
And so a lot of times it's, people are feeling drained by the world around them. It's a busy, hectic world, and we can get caught up in it, or we can find ways to minimize the effect on it. And that's part of what we're talking about today. And it's actually interesting from a GP perspective. I forgot about this when we organized the name of it. But it's this is under the influence of the 19th gene key, and it's all about sensitivity, hypersensitivity, codependence, protection, all that kind of stuff. So it's as usual a very timely discussion, and I know it's come up in the field for a lot of people this week. So if you feel like you've been extra sensitive this week, it's something to do with the planets. And it could be to do with, for those of you who are not familiar with the gene keys, you can go check out the website genekeys.com. That's GENE keys.com. And maybe you've got that 19th gene key in your profile. Anyhow, that's our discussion for today. I know Jason's just busy sharing this on different sites at the moment.
Done.
So he's done.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So this sound like a good discussion to you, Jason?
It sounds like a good discussion. I know there's many people that you probably know of, Matthew, and many people that I know of that come to classes with me that are, they've got a lot of high sensitivity. And how do you deal with it? How do you deal with high sensitivity emotions and this sort of thing? My name's Jason Goldsworthy. Matthew introduced me a little bit. Yeah, I'm a medium in just over the border on Germany, and I also do a lot of work in Holland, England, Canada, wherever the spirit will take me, I will work. And I've noticed a lot of my students, they have a lot of high sensitivity, and a lot of people in this world do have a high sensitivity. They're called HSPers, and I find I help a lot of people just trying to get them back into themselves and say, look, I know all these feelings are going on outside of you, but now it's time to have a feeling what's going on inside, what's going on within you. And it's really reflecting back into that. I mean, how do you deal with it in these days? Got all these emotions. We've got, even high sensitive people that go on Facebook and they'll read a couple of posts, and then all of a sudden they'll be like, oh wow, there's they'll be getting all these feelings and feeling like, oh, I feel overwhelmed. I'm feeling all this, not only information coming in, but also emotion coming in. And how I deal with it is set your state, in the beginning of your day. And basically it's going within and feeling inside yourself. How are you feeling when you wake up? And stay in the things like you feel, like gratitude. Take that feeling of yourself, how you're feeling, and try and hold on to that feeling the whole day. A lot of people will find that when they meet the first person, they pick up emotions and pick up stuff like this. How do they deal with it? Well, all I'm saying, if anyone's got any questions about this, please put them in here and let us know. Matthew, you've got some stuff about high sensitivity as well that you can mention, right?
Oh, absolutely. As you were talking about that, it reminded me of what really got me on the path of exploring this, because I did a little test myself. It was answer 30 questions or something like that. This is about 10 years or so ago, before I ever opened up to any kind of meditative practice, maybe I was doing some meditation. But it's a book called The Highly Sensitive Person, and I think it's by a woman called Elaine Aron, A-A-R-O-N. And she's a PhD person who studied sensitive people and some of the things that they experience. And I did the test, and I think it was like 30 questions, and I was 27 out of 30 of them. So it's definitely something. That book was an eye-opener for me. But a lot of it does come through personal experience, right? It comes through being aware, like you said, I think there's a few things we could talk to today, and one of them is, how we work with other people's emotions, because, you
Exactly.
know, what are we taking on? Because that's huge. That's a huge factor.
Well,
And
well,
there's also,
we got some big hellos, Matthew. We've got Sarah Sachs saying hello from Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh. I think it must be cold there. And we've got a Lindsay saying hello from Ontario. Am I saying that right? In Canada?
Ontario, yeah.
Yeah, Ontario. So welcome, and welcome to everyone else that's coming in and watching. And what were you saying? We had to look into Matthew.
Oh yeah. So as well as the sort of interactions with others, there's the interactions with our environment around us, and how we can find ways to work within all of those. So I know I definitely feel like compelled to share some of those things today.
Cool.
And also, as you were talking there too, one of the other things that, very sensitive people are very sensitive to and can get caught up in is the effects of the planets, right?
Yeah.
So, oh
Yeah.
my God, there's another retrograde coming,
Yeah.
or turn
Yeah.
off all your computers, the retrograde's coming, or there's a
Yeah.
full moon, and
Yeah.
what that does to us. We've all seen the memes on Facebook. And
Exactly.
I'm reminded the story of one of the original Kriya Yoga masters that brought Kriya Yoga to the West, and he was Sri Yukteswar. He was Paramahansa Yogananda's mentor,
Oh
or
yeah.
mentor. He was his guru. And Yogananda was saying how, in his younger years, Yukteswar spent a lot of time studying the influence of the planets and astrology, and he really understood a lot about that. And he would always ask the question, is like, what is it that I can do so that I can begin to transcend the influence of planets and other people? And because, planets are like people, they're these bodies around us that have their own magnetic fields and gravitational pulls and can affect us. And so that's when he came across the Kriya Yoga practice. So any
Cool.
kind of meditative practice, anything like you were saying, Jason, really that takes us inwards, that can really, even if we're very sensitive people, it's like it creates a way
Exactly.
for us to be centered and not as pulled by things around us. And so it does take some practice with any of these things. Like, I've been doing my Kriya Yoga practice for 9 years, but I definitely don't feel I'm sensitive, but I still don't necessarily feel the influence of the planets to the extreme some folks do. And I think it's simply because sometimes it's a case of, what are we giving ourselves power to outside of ourselves, right? Simply
Exactly.
believing that I'm not affected by the moon doesn't mean that I'm going to be not affected by the moon. But if I'm consciously making practices that great spiritual traditions have always said, hey, this stuff can help, guys, just pay attention and do it.
Yeah.
Then as I do it, that can really be of value. So absolutely, that builds on what you were just saying there. And
Absolutely.
it's, like you said, it is a great way to start the day, but it doesn't guarantee we can maintain that aura throughout the day necessarily. And that's where it comes to minding our environment as we
Yeah.
move through the day. But
Well,
I think it's a
being
fantastic thing.
mindful, like you mentioned, Matthew, being mindful, like the mindfulness, right? How you feel in the morning, like registering that and saying, "Hey, this is how I feel," and then taking that out into the world, and that's what you mentioned as well. Is like how do you deal with other people? How do you deal with other things? And it's like going within yourself and feeling within inside of yourself, like, what do I feel when no one's around? When you've taken that sweep of your body, you've taken that sweep of your soul, and you've taken that sweep of all your feelings, then when you go into a different environment, you can pick up, hey, what am I picking up that's different here? And the thing is with high sensitivity people is that they feel that they're taking everything on board when really you're not taking it on board. You're just picking up what's outside of yourself. And what I
Mm-hmm.
tend to do, like going into supermarkets, the most positive place in the world, not. But when you go in there and you've got all these energy there and stressed people, and maybe like, the energy's not good there. But when you go in and you feel that, and you feel it coming within your body, you become aware and you register it and you say, okay, this is not my feelings, this is outside of myself, I can handle this, and go within and go back to how you felt before. You need to register how you felt before in the morning. So I want to feel that feeling again, and go back to that, because it's a matter of awareness. When you've got
Mm-hmm.
awareness with inside of your being, And then you've got an awareness outside of your being. But when you're aware that it's outside, it's nothing to do with the inside. Now, mostly high sensitive people say, "Oh, that's my feelings, and I'll take it with me," and they feel that they may have some energy taken with them. The best thing to do is to say, "Look, um, that's outside of myself. I'm now going within, and I now want to feel my own feelings." And you can do that in an environment that feels negative, like a supermarket or public place or whatever, or you can do that when you meet other people and you feel like your energy's changing, and suddenly you're feeling like different senses. Maybe you're feeling less happy than you normally are. And it's not that you're taking over their energy, it's just that you're becoming aware of it. Again, if you reflect within and you go, okay, how do I feel? Then you'll feel like, okay, I feel good, I feel strong, I feel empowered, my feelings feel like that. And it's making the decision to go back within and to stay within that self with who you are. That's what you meant, isn't it, Matthew?
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it, right? Because we
yeah,
can be mindful of it through the day. Meditation isn't just sitting on a mat. And it really does come down to sort of our energetic boundaries, doesn't it? Not just energetic boundaries, but actual physical boundaries too.
yeah,
So as well as the inside, there is important things to maintain or consider on the outside. And a big part of, what you said is like, is this emotion that I'm feeling, is this my emotion?
yeah,
And one of the things Nicole, my wife, taught me was that if this is not my emotion, I let it go now. If we let it go and we feel better, it's quite likely it was somebody else's emotion. If in that moment we're not, then we have to, that's what we can work with in that moment is this is okay, this is here in
yeah,
my body now. I'm now choosing to release it. And then when it comes to boundaries in our physical world, a lot of sensitives, we care so deeply for people and we can give so much to people, and that we forget, we can lose ourselves in the process, right? It's almost like it's this
yeah,
we are one mind on this planet. We're all connected. We're all one, right? And at the same time, we're all one and individuals within that. And we have to maintain a sense of that individuality if we're going to stay healthy. Because otherwise, if we're in toxic environments and we're there to help, we think we're helping somebody, but it's really not helping them because they're not receiving it, and also it's not helping us because we're getting unloaded with um, other people's crap, basically.
exactly.
Then it's not a great situation to be in. So it's
Yeah,
really important to create. I think it starts with, we can start with energetic boundaries, and then we can move into being mindful throughout the day of creating boundaries, and not boundaries based on fear, boundaries based on the greater good for myself, the greater good for others. Because a lot
yeah,
of times the boundaries we set are also good for others, even if they don't recognize it in that time. But I think highly sensitive people have to be more mindful of those kinds of things than others who would appear to be less sensitive.
yeah.
I don't know if that's experience there.
Well, exactly. I think I've got a good way to put that. When I started working as a male nurse, I was picking up all the feelings from the patients, but I didn't realize it. I thought it was my
Mm-hmm.
own feelings. So I was going to the doctor with heart palpitations and problems with the heart area, and I had problems in my hips. I thought, what's going on with me? I'm falling apart.
Right.
And I got to the doctor, and he was checking me out and said, "You're fine." And it wasn't until I started reading the maps of the patients, and they said, "Oh, this person has heart problems." And so whenever I got in contact with that person, I'm feeling all these heart problems. And when I got in contact with another person, I was like, "Oh, that's the back." Okay, and all these feelings that you are picking up, they can actually be other people, and that's when you have to start taking stock of your own house and saying, "Okay, this energy is from this person, this energy is from that person," and coming back to yourself. And it's just a case of changing your mind and doing that. And Matthew mentioned that you can also let go, and boundaries do have a lot to do with it. You say, okay, this is my boundary. So when you wake up in the morning, the first feeling you're feeling when you open your eyes and you're feeling good, that's your natural state. That's your natural feeling. If you can hold on to that the whole day, then you're going to stay in that natural state and you'll be setting that state. Um,
Yeah.
and then if you go into the world and you're picking up energy from a person or whatever, and you say, "I want to come back to my natural state," then that's the way to do it, because then you've got something to come back to that you know is your energy. One thing to be aware of is you are not, you're definitely not picking up energy and taking it with you from where you are. It may feel like that when you're highly sensitive, but what it is, the remembrance of that feeling, you're not letting go of,
Yeah.
and so
It's
you're taking
curious.
it with you. And a lot of people I get that are high sensitive, I say, just let it go. And they say, well, how do I let it go? And I said, well, you can sort of like breathe into yourself and say, I'm going to use my breath to let this go now because it's not mine. And that can help. Just breathing it up and down and becoming aware of your breath, using your breathing to let go of anything that doesn't belong to you, is the best way. Is one of the best ways I know. There are other techniques, but because of the time, I'm going to pass it on to Matthew, see if he's got anything to add to this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it was funny when you were talking about the morning, waking up in the morning. It occurred to me too that a lot of people who are watching this are people you've trained in mediumship. So there's a lot of mediums, and I remember before I ever got into anything related to mediumship or was ever really aware of it for myself, was that I had a friend, and she came in one morning and she's just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And I said, why are you tired? She just got up, I think. So she said, oh, this kid, he was by the side of my bed all night just talking at me. And I was like, what do you mean a kid at the side of your bed? Oh no, I mean a kid. He died last night or something, or a few nights ago, and he was here by the bed beside me. And he was trying to get my attention. And it's like, that's for people who are sensitive to that extreme. It's like we have to set those boundaries from the very outset of the day. Like mediums
Exactly.
will start their day by saying, hey guys, I know you got something to say, but now's not the time. I'm taking a shower right now and you're not in here. Right. And so
Exactly.
it's like, if we're not setting, that's a good indicator too, is like, if we're not setting boundaries at the very beginning of our day with dead people,
Yeah.
what are we like with the people that we're meeting every day throughout our life, right? So it's
Exactly.
your story just reminded me of that. And then I think something else that's really important too, that is the physical environment. I know that we're very sensitive to things like Wi-Fi, right? And
Yeah.
I know they're talking about bringing this 5G
Yeah.
Wi-Fi throughout
Yeah.
Europe and stuff, and that's raising a lot of alarm bells for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
so it's really important for us as sensitives. I mean, we have our Wi-Fi's on during the day, but at nighttime, it's shut off. And then it's like being mindful of the foods we intake, being
Exactly.
mindful of the water we intake. And then, if we feel headaches coming
Yeah.
on and things like that, not to just automatically assume it's a migraine and pop a pill, but just is there something in my environment that I'm picking up on that
Exactly.
maybe I need to move away from? And how you and I have doused land and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It could even come down to, okay, there's a hot spot here. Like when I'm out, I went out with a group of people this weekend and we doused the land and we were walking through it. And you pluck people into those hot spots, whether they're negative or positive, and
Yeah.
they can feel that difference. And when you got a whole bunch of sensitives walking together, they can be aware of the land. So
Exactly.
definitely in the environment or others are also, it's really important to pay attention to those
Exactly.
throughout our day as well.
But I like what you said there about the Wi-Fi and about the 5G coming in or whatever. It's like when you're highly sensitive, you're picking up signals from all over the place.
Mhm.
And I like to keep my phones downstairs. I normally have them in flight mode. When I sleep, I make sure things are switched off, because any sort of stuff, if you're sensitive and you think, oh, where's that coming from? Why am I feeling this way? It's probably got a lot something to do with that. I know that Matthew's wife can't sleep with the Wi-Fi on. As soon as the
If
Wi-Fi
you can't
is,
sleep, I can't sleep either.
you can't sleep either. And as soon as you put the Wi-Fi out, they both fall asleep. So it's like,
Mhm.
is finding, hey, what is this? What is actually coming into our bodies, and what are we becoming aware of? So being highly sensitive isn't something we can say, oh, this is a bad thing. It's actually quite a good thing, because you're becoming aware of what your body likes to have and what your body doesn't like to have. What Matthew mentioned, going into places where there's negativity, whether it's a supermarket or a place where I take them on a walk and say, feel this negative energy, which is just earth energy, but also feel what positive energy is and getting in connection with that. It's like, then you can feel into it, and then I say to him, okay, now step out of it. They said, what do you mean? I said, just let go of what you've been feeling there and step out of it, and making the conscious choice to step out of the negative energy or whatever, whether it's someone you've met or something else. You let it go, because you don't give it permission to stay with you. And that's the thing about boundaries. When you realize that you're in control of your high sensitivity, you're in control of your boundaries, you're in control of your energy, you just need to become aware of it, and also become aware of when you can switch it on and switch it off. Because when your aura is expanded out here, which most people are, and when they're highly sensitive, normally they're right in the next room, try and breathe your aura in. And when you say, I just want to breathe my aura in closer to my body, and you just use your breath. So when you're breathing in your aura and you use your breath and you say, I just want to keep it here when I go into this supermarket, you'll find you'll have less problem with any energy surrounding you. And it's just becoming conscious, because what follows your mind is energy. So what follows your mind is your body. Anything you think your body can do, it can achieve it. Anything you think that the energy of your body can do, it can achieve it. So if you choose to bring your aura in close to you, it will come close to you just naturally. We've got a big hello from Holland, from Jan. We've also got a big hello from Holland, from Ursula as well. Anyone else that's listening, if you've got any questions about high sensitivity or anything that you just think you'd like us to talk about, just throw it in the chat here and let us know. But yeah, I do like that when you're feeling into these things, Matthew. Yeah, so you had something to add to that.
Well, not a lot to add to it, no, but it's what you were just saying there about how easy it actually is. We feel like, oh, I've got to get my my crystals, and I got to get all these different things, and I got to set up all these things in my physical environment, and they do make a difference. Like crystals and all those kinds of things make a difference, in saging, right? But the last thing you want is a bunch of us walking around supermarkets saging people, because of the energy we're picking up. And what you're saying is, like, it's so easy to just drop back into ourselves. And I think that's really important. It's the ease of it. I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, there's this emotion coming up, and it's like, I got to go away and process this and deal with it. But it's just like that conscious decision, oh, I'm going to step away from it. And you were saying, about the sensitivity, and I think it's really important with all of this, is like, this sensitivity of ours is a strength. Right. And well, I know for me as a guy, and you probably as a guy growing up with that, it's like, I heard a lot when I was younger that I was just too sensitive. Right. And I didn't see it as a gift. It was something to feel shame about. Right. And so carrying the traumas of that is also something that we can carry, that makes us, even more sensitive, because we're not talking about hypersensitive, because there is balance. Right.
Exactly.
There's hypersensitivity to stuff, which can make us, fall into our shadow patterns, per se. But when we see that this sensitivity is a strength, because we become the people that can bring awareness to others who maybe don't feel as sensitive. And really, all of us can be sensitive, and deep down we are, if not on the surface. Even those rough guys that you see out in the world, that you think they haven't got a drop of sensitivity, I can guarantee you they do.
I think I think there should be sensitivity awareness courses, like, how sensitive are you really, and I don't mean just something that you fill in the internet. I mean, take in one day, said, okay, guys, what do you feel here? What do you feel there? And I think, because when you realize, like, something like Wi-Fi, when you turn it off, that you can sleep better, and it's not activating you, it's not irritating you. Someone mentioned, what about the Wi-Fi of the neighbors? Let me just have a look. That was Teenza. You mentioned the Wi-Fi of the neighbors, and I think, you can't switch their Wi-Fi off, and you could ask them nicely, could you please switch your Wi-Fi off? But they probably won't. I do know that it normally has a radius of a house. So depending on what side they've got it on their house, depends how far it strands out. If you've got dowsing rods, you can dowse how far that comes, and
Yeah.
you can move your bed or even in your room to a different room where you're not affected by it. Um, I think
And there
that's
are
one
things
thing
that
to
you
do it,
can.
but I know Matthew is also into using sage to make things positive, and I know sage is something that you can burn around the rooms and stuff like that. And apparently, it's not only antibacterial, it's antiviral, and it does promote more negative ions, which is good for the body. Apparently,
Yeah, there you go. Reading
yeah,
up on your science. Hey, I like it.
yeah, yeah. Got to stay up
Who
to
are you
date.
becoming, Jason?
You know, this is an ongoing saga. If you can believe it, you can do it. Welcome Esmeralda, welcome Erica, and Lindsay. It just says so far so good. She's enjoying it.
And I think as well that there are physical things that people can get. There are, so as well as things like crystals, there are things with magnetic properties that can actually shield us
Yeah,
as well
yeah,
from things like radiation too. So
yeah.
I totally understand that. I'm really lucky in that my house is about 40 or 50 meters away from the nearest house. So I'm definitely not picking up the neighbor's Wi-Fi. But
Yeah,
I understand, like, I grew up in England where, I could probably reach out and hand my neighbor a cup of tea through the wall because it's that close. And so it's you don't have that control over other people's Wi-Fi for certain. But there are things like there's these bracelets that you can get, or sorry,
yeah,
pendants that you can get that can be protective.
yeah.
Because while you're sleeping, you're just a sponge because you're not conscious of it. Before you
Exactly,
go to bed, you could say, "Hey, I'd like to have as much shielding as possible as I go into sleep
exactly.
and throughout the night." So there's intention around that.
Yeah,
And is what Jason and I have really been talking about today is bringing more mindfulness into it because it could be more mindful to things like, I used to be a 3 cups of coffee a day kind of person. And then I realized how sensitive I was to that, right?
yeah,
And then it could be things like dairy and other stuff. And so, really, there's somebody on Facebook that I've been kind of watching her travels, and she's somebody who's very sensitive, and she's bringing a lot of awareness about different things. And she calls herself the canary in the coal mine.
yeah.
And a lot of times, sensitive people can be that way, right? It's
Exactly,
it's when we become ungrounded and people will find it difficult to listen to us if we're ungrounded and not acknowledging that we're feeling the state of victim, like we're feeling a state of victimhood. We're
yeah,
a victim to the planets. We're a victim to all these different things. Yes,
exactly.
to a large extent, humanity is victim to a lot of these things,
Yeah,
but it's only once we transcend that we're able to recognize that there are solutions available,
yeah.
and we can, as the canaries in the coal mine, we can bring awareness to the world around these things. So maybe over time things can be changed for the benefit. Because you know what? This 19th gene key that I was talking about is actually a transformation that's happening on the planet. So
Yeah,
100 years from now, we're not going to see less sensitive people. We're going to see more sensitive people. We're going to
yeah,
see more people who, some of the abilities that some people are having that we have in the world right now that seem like an anomaly, they're going to be commonplace 100 years from now.
yeah.
And and so we are going to become more so this is kind of like the contrast that we're going through as a species. We're seeing all these things that really don't work for us, and so we are pioneers in sensitivity, those of
Yeah.
us that are really voicing these things and helping others. Because every day, the other day I was talking to a girl that didn't realize how sensitive she was until she started talking about things that she could smell from halfway across the room that other people couldn't smell.
Well,
That
yeah,
acted as,
that's amazing, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, and it's like, we're just going to see more and more of that coming through into the world.
So we've
And
got a question coming up here, Matthew. We've got a big hello from Ellie.
okay,
So welcome, Ellie. Welcome, Esmeralda. Dores, Dolores has asked. I have a dear friend who's always anxious, and she confirms this daily. So yes, thinking differently is a good advice. How does one override those anxious feelings? She is also a sensitive. Thank you. Well,
Mm.
what Matthew was saying is when you're sensitive, like you're asking Dolores, she needs to become aware of what she puts into her body as well. Because I know, uh, like I know other people that are anxious as well. They've stopped drinking coffee, and the anxiousness has got less. So it's becoming aware of, do you really need the stimulant of coffee to make that anxiety even worse? No, you don't. So I was also someone that got quite anxious, but I used to drink about 20 cups of coffee a day when I was working as a chef. Now I'll probably only drink about two small cups. So it makes a difference. So that's one thing you can do to that's one thing you can do to cut down on something like coffee. Tea also, it's something that you can cut down on. Um, Being highly sensitive and having anxiety with it, Dolores, one of the main things I could say is like, if she can get in touch like with herself in the mornings. What the problem is with high sensitivity people, we have like an information overload at the moment. We've got 4G, we've got Facebook, we've got Twitter, we've got all this stuff that there's too much information coming in. For anyone that's got anxiety, give yourself an information detox, like a detox, right? And if they're having a detox from Facebook, detox from Twitter, detox from all of that, and start off with 2 hours in the morning, 1 hour in the morning, just coming to know yourself, your own feelings before you start the day. And also take a look at your Facebook and see how much you are on it. But if she cuts back on coffee and cuts back on the information overload, which a lot of people have, that's you definitely need a Facebook. Yeah, Daniela Nyhouse says it as well. Stop Facebook. He detox. It's like a an information Facebook Twitter detox. I mean, they did a study, 150 people, 100 like on so many people, where they found they look at their Twitter, their Instagram more than 150 times a day, the average person. And you think about that, you think, okay, Facebook. I used to be on Facebook, on my phone 5 hours a day, and thought I haven't got enough time. Now I've cut it down to about 45 minutes for just the essential stuff that I do on Facebook. And I'm like, okay, but it just, when you become aware of that, you can lose a lot of time. And there's so much information coming in that you don't need as a highly sensitive. So when you cut that out of your life, you're giving yourself more of a rest. So stimulants like your mobile telephone, which is always there, try not to open it all the time. Switch it off, put it in flight mode. Become aware. I am highly sensitive to telephones like this, so I put it in flight mode whenever I go somewhere. When I put it on my body somewhere, it's always in flight mode, and I find I have the less amount. I don't have problems with the energy being emanating from it. And there's a lot of people that would have problems with the energy emanating from their cell phones. So whenever I use it, I'll put it on, of course, but I tend to limit myself to that sort of thing. I've limited myself on watching too much television in a row, and taking time to become one with yourself, one with your feelings, and one with your soul. And when you've got that feeling and you hold on to it, you'll find that you'll shift in a better direction. Less coffee, detox Facebook. That may help. Lindsay has just asked, she says, I love
Take back
coffee.
some stuff.
Got another one. She says, I love coffee in moderation. I do have way too much energy usually. Well, there you go, Lindsay. There's something for you. So welcome to everyone that's just joined. So Matthew, what have you got to add to that?
Yeah, everything there is absolutely a big part of it, isn't it? And then it's what I'm also mindful of is when we're intuitive people, and that we can be getting information, like you said, from lots of different sources, but and also we could be in a situation where we're getting information for ourselves that is useful. And because one of the things, you might do all those things, you might still feel a sense of anxiety, and it could some of the anxiety can come around through the not knowing. It's like our intuition feels like something is coming, something is shifting.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, for instance, Nicole and I were both, our stomachs were both upset, We're
yeah,
like, well, we haven't eaten anything. We're not drinking coffee. The Wi-Fi's off. What is it that's doing this? Later on in the day, we found that our cat, who's been missing for 8 months, somebody had found her body not too far away.
yeah,
And so it was quite upsetting to find that out, but it was also brought closure. But it was just like, sometimes we feel that anxiety because there's some information coming through. And it's because we have our things around what that information is that we can actually create anxiety, because sometimes we get this download and it's like, I got to do that, and then our fears and doubts kick in, right? It's like the intuition about somebody to call, somebody to reach out to. And one of the other things too is that because anxiety comes from us to need feeling like we need to control something too. If it's not a chemical cause of it,
yeah,
it comes oftentimes out of a need for control. And I
absolutely.
found for myself that it's like some form of creativity is wanting to come through.
Yeah,
So that anxiety can be channeled into something. And so oftentimes I've sat there with anxiety and I was like, okay, and I don't know what I'm going to write. Kind of like when we get on this call today, I don't know what we're going to talk about. And I sit down and I'll just start writing. And then
yeah,
suddenly my body's feeling lighter. And there's all these things coming on the page. And I look at the page like, oh, okay, that's for me. That's helpful. Right?
yeah,
Actually, kind of like when we do this,
yeah,
oftentimes I'll go watch the playbacks. I'm like, oh, right, that's for me. Just as
exactly.
much as it is for everybody else. And so, you could find that it is like as you let go of that need to control, what can you bring out? My wife Nicole used to get anxiety before going up and speaking and doing inspired speaking, because she'd be like, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about. But she would get up there and she would just become this clear channel
Yeah,
for things. So that anxiety still creeps in. We're still
yeah,
aware of that anxiety. And breath work is something that's definitely helped me a lot with anxiety, as well as everything that Jason was sharing.
yeah,
Um, there is this possibility, a lot of people, and if you're into the gene keys, I know there's people watching who are into the gene keys. Even if
yeah,
it's not in your gene key profile, look up the 57th gene key.
yeah,
The shadow is unease, and it's all about anxiety, and the gift is intuition. And so there's something in that. There's wisdom in that for everybody. And so, what if I would say to people like, what can you do internally? Is like, okay, what do I need to let go of needing to control in my life?
yeah.
Because we may find that just from that, our anxiety levels begin to diminish.
Yeah, right.
There's
So good one. We've got
causes.
we've got a few comments now, Matthew. Apparently, Sarah Sachs is drinking coffee to keep warm.
Yeah.
My mum says
Oh
she
yeah, it's
loves. My
cold
mum
there,
says my
Sarah.
mum says she loves me. Thanks, mum. And Teaser says, "Is cannabis good or bad for mediumship?" Well, I can answer that one. Any mind-altering substances is not good for your mediumship. I wouldn't say. I'd say, like, if someone's having cannabis oil because they've got pain or
Healthy.
anything like that. Okay. I think Matthew will agree with me. It's not really good for people if they have to do a mediumship consult the next day if they're having cannabis oil for pain or migraines or whatever. So just think about this. If you're clear within your mind and you're focused within your mind, then your mediumship is going to be better. When you're not focused through substances, and it's not going to be better. I think you can confirm me on the cannabis oil, can't you, Matthew?
Well, the cannabis oil definitely for the health factors is important. It doesn't have the THC that gives
Yeah,
people the other responses to
yeah,
cannabis.
yeah,
And I think with any of these things that we catch ourselves doing as well, it's important to come from a place of observation and not
yeah,
judgment. So if we catch ourselves judging ourselves, just be aware of that, because like, yeah, I drink coffee,
yeah,
and I've got some of these other things, other habits that I
yeah,
possibly could make. I don't smoke cannabis,
yeah,
but again, I know people who do, and
yeah,
that it's either for health reasons, and even if it is recreational, that's their choice. And
yeah,
some of them do feel it helps open them up, and everybody's got their experience and journey with it.
yeah,
I've seen a brother who's really struggled with it and the effects of it, so I'm less inclined to use it myself. But I agree with Jason, is like there's so many ways that we can connect into these higher planes that exist within ourselves. And that's for me, that the path of yoga was what opened me up and taught me that. But everybody finds their own way through this and to this. And there's some people who can drink lots of coffee as sensitives and it doesn't bother them. I haven't found many of them, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's just, I think
I
what we're seeing here is being mindful for ourselves as to how certain things are affecting us. If we can
exactly,
honestly say it's
exactly.
doing only good.
It's becoming mindful what you put into your body, and what you expect is going to come out of your body. You know, anything you put into it. Like anyone that's sensitive, not a lot of people can tolerate gluten these days. They can't tolerate lactose. They can't lactose. They can't tolerate. Become aware of the things that you can't tolerate that you put into your body. And you know, I think that's the main thing. Dolores says something about getting butterflies before doing public speaking, but when you learn to
Yeah,
breathe, you can teach these. There can be butterflies that can help you fly. And it is right, when you concentrate, whenever you're anxious or whenever you're feeling anything outside of yourself that's not right, if you just breathe like you are already feeling confident, you will change your mind state. So if you all
yeah,
just turn around and just start, hold on, put your shoulders back and just breathe like you feel confident, and you'll find that your breathing will naturally get more, more stronger. You'll get more oxygen in your lungs, and you will change your mind state. My mum says whiskey would change your mind state, and it will also help with being anxious. I think that's what she's trying to mean with that. But I would go
my
for the
grandma
breathing.
agreed.
Um, Gives me focus, right? So yeah, there's also the ADHD medicines gives me focus. That's a good thing. Teinzer, I think, if I'm saying your name incorrectly, I am sorry. But if it brings focus, whatever works for you and whatever medication works for you, I think that's the main thing to remember. Whether you're doing mediumship or whether you're sensitive or whatever, but if the medication works for you, then that's a medication that you can use, even when you need to do certain mediumship. Then we've got Anna Marie Kirchhoff. I got more sensitive now. I'm getting older. I sometimes feel better. And Anna Meek, that is something that I am aware of as well. You become more aware of it, and you're becoming aware of your sensitivities. And it may be not just because you're becoming older. It may be that you're becoming aware of yourself for who you are now in yourself, more spiritually, or more in the way that you are. And that's something that you probably weren't aware of when you was younger. I know when I was younger, the only thing I was aware of was the next party, and the next party, when did it start and what time did it finish. And work was something I just did in between them. And that's where I was when I was younger, so I was not aware of my sensitivity. But when I got older, you become aware of, hey, what am I putting into my body? What sort of effects are Wi-Fi having on me? On sleep patterns, we've noticed that if you switch the Wi-Fi out, you can sleep better. Becoming aware of what you eat and what resonates with you, and drinking less coffee helps for anxiety. Um, so
That's a good summary.
that's
And
a good summary. Sarah Sachs says, I think that any mind altering substance gives people false confidence and makes them feel more open to mediumship. It's an illusion. I can tell a student friend that is giving unsolicited messages in a bar was a bad idea on so many levels. Exactly. And I wouldn't combine it, because when you're doing mediumship, and this is just for all the mediums out there, it's a sacred thing you're doing. You're connecting a soul from the spirit world through your soul to connect with another soul. Please do take the time to do it professionally, and don't do it under the influence, because you're not doing the spirit world any good, you're not doing yourself any good, and you're certainly not giving the perfect messages any good. For people that are highly sensitive, there is a stone that you can buy. It's called labradorite. I'm just going to put it in the comments here. It is something that they say does help some sensitives to let go of any negative things around themselves, this, that, and the other. But remember this: you can't take away your sensitivity, but what can you do? Learn to deal with it. And when you become aware that outside of yourself there's all this stuff going on, whether it's Wi-Fi, internet, people, circumstances, places. When you come
planets.
back within inside of yourself and feel like, okay, what am I feeling inside? How much of this is me, and how much is this the influence from outside of yourself? When you bring your aura closer to your body, when you bring yourself closer within, you will find just by using your mind, you can change your sensitivity. So instead of sensitizing yourself to things that you're allergic for, you can also bring yourself within and say, hey, I'm going to desensitize myself when I walk into this shop. I'm going to desensitize myself when I go into these things. And when you go in with intention, you will find you can set your state to get you through anything, whether it's going to be a day at the office, a day working, or whatever you do, you'll find that you can cope with things better when you actually take time to find out what your state is. And I think what we said in the beginning is, don't go on Facebook with the first hour that you wake up. Give yourself a Facebook detox. Try not to take in too much information at the same time. All these things can create anxiety, and set your state. Feel who you are in the morning. Take that with you. And when you feel who you are in the morning, you'll find, I feel all right. I'm good who I am. So when you feel good, take that out into the world and radiate that out into the world, instead of becoming what some people might call a thermometer and reacting directly to Facebook posts, emotions and stuff like that. Become that set state that you can be and bring that out into the world. Matthew, anything to add? Good morning, Maureen.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that was said there was really important and powerful, and it's it bears repeating, doesn't it? And we always come back to the breath. That's it. And it was one of the things when you were talking about the desensitizing to places. It's like one of the places that I find that a lot of us need to desensitize to most is when we go into spiritual stores, because it can be overwhelming with all the crystals and sage and everything in there. So it's like even in those environments, we have to be mindful of that. And something as you're talking too that feels important to share is that we're a couple of guys up here, and we've had our experiences, and you can speak from the science we studied and the physiology that we're aware of for ourselves. But I'm aware that there's a whole queue of women who are watching this call who have had, we don't go through menopause, Jason. We don't have premenstrual tension every month. There's a lot of things that women have that are beyond what we experience during the day. And so if there's any, thing that any women watching this want to add below, I think in the comment sections, because we can't speak to those kinds of things. But I know that there's wisdom from people watching this who would be able to share for women going through those particular times during the month, or during those times during their life as well.
Yeah. Well, like moon sensitivity, going through moon cycles and stuff like that, I mean, of course, it has been proven that men also go through these moon cycles as well, but not in the physical way, and absolutely not in the emotional way that women go through them. And I feel that there's that it's becoming aware of your body, becoming aware of who you are, and becoming aware of what you can handle. I think that's the main thing. My kids are highly sensitive, and they say, "Oh, I don't like it here, I don't like it there." They say, "I don't like school, I don't like this." But what I do is I tend to say to them, "Go out and go into school, get used to feeling different circumstances." And I think with people with highly sensitive, do not pull yourself back and don't keep yourself at home. Make sure that you keep going out there and living a life, because I know of some really highly sensitive people, they just stay in their room, they get everything delivered, and they never go out. And I'm saying that's not the way forward. The way forward is to live, and also to share your wisdom with other people, not just over internet, but face to face, soul to soul.
Absolutely, yeah. We don't want to develop any kinds of fears of people. And something I just realized that none of us, because we haven't talked about today, but of course we always talk about, is the timeouts. So we need those timeouts. And so if you have to be in a job all day where you're exposed to Wi-Fi and things like that, taking 10 minutes outside to get some fresh air, right? And even in the cities that can be difficult, but it's like, is there a little park nearby? Is there something somewhere where you can put your feet onto actual soil ground, or where you can take a little, I continue to be reminded that I live in this beautiful space in British Columbia where I can't walk 10 yards without seeing an eagle or trees
Yeah,
or other animals, and I'm just so deeply connected to nature here.
yeah,
But
you're
even in
lucky.
Victoria, which is only 40 kilometers away, there isn't that. But it's like the memes you see on Facebook. It's like there's no Wi-Fi in the forest, but the connection is great,
Yeah.
and it can be also another way to reground and
I'm glad you
reconnect.
mentioned that, Matthew, because there's a lot of people that may live in the city, and there has been studies done on, like, the psychology of how people are when they don't get out into nature, and they found that people are more depressed, they're more anxious, they're not feeling well, they're not feeling good, and they end up, being, overstimulated through technology and everything that's going on. So definitely a good thing to get out into nature and connect. It doesn't mean you have to go out and hug loads of trees, but just to get out and connect, because they've measured auras of people that before they went out in nature, and they've measured them when they went out in nature and just took a walk, whether that's in your nearest park or whatever, and the auras grew, which means you
Mhm.
come back into your natural state, your natural energy flow. So
Yes.
that's one thing to remember. There is science behind what Matthew's saying, which is really
And
interesting.
you
Sarah
have
Sachs
strong
also says
science.
something about moon cycles in men present the opportunity for men to get in touch with their female side.
It's true.
Yeah,
It's true. And
yeah,
definitely as we're working through the time with our wives who are experiencing it, I've learned more about the nature of emotions through my wife and allowed more through that than I did before I was ever single. So
well,
absolutely agree with that.
yeah, well, I've gone through it myself as well. Living with my wife and my daughter, and I've had myself in my high sensitive been picking up on the stomach cramps. I thought they were mine. I thought I was feeling emotional, all that sort of thing. And then you realise, hold on a minute, this is not me. But it gives you some idea of what it's like. And I have a lot of
You learn
respect
some
for
compassion that way,
you
hey?
know you tend up to have a lot of respect for what the ladies are going through, and and I think the one thing about being highly sensitive is remembering you're always going to have that connection with people just a little bit deeper than what normally can on face value. You're not going to take people for who they are. You're actually going to feel in and connect them on face value for who they are. And I think that's something to remember, that it's not a problem, it's actually a gift. And if you can
Yeah.
treat it as a gift and use it as a gift, and but learn to deal with it as a gift, then you're going to have a better life and a better time within your life. So that's something. We've got another comment from Lindsay. You become more emotional and more sensitive for sure. It's really learning to breathe through it and accept that this is the time to release. For men, it would be the same, a time to let go. Exactly. And really, that's powerful what you're saying, Lindsay, because the moon cycle, whether it's physical for ladies or it's the moon cycle for men, it's like the indigenous cultures, they believe that it's a time of transformation, and the time of transformation where it's that one time in the month where you're having such a powerful transformational period where you can let go. And exactly, and that is where the sweat lodge comes in, because apparently the indigenous cultures built a sweat lodge for the men to be able to have the same transformational period in the month as well. And that's where they built these sweat lodges for the indigenous men. So it's something to remember. It's not just the pain that you go through, but it is a time to let go, a time to transform, and a time of acceptance.
Absolutely. Well, bingo, look at the time.
Well,
9
we've
a.m.
just we've
here in
just gone off
England.
on one.
In England? I just said it's 9 a.m. in here in England, but I'm in Canada. It's 9 a.m. here in Canada. Neither of us is in England, but obviously shows we went way beyond the half hour today, but we
We
had so
did.
many engaging questions
Yeah.
there,
I would.
and I think we found a topic of interest to a lot of people. So
Yeah. I wonder.
definitely share this video with others that you feel like will benefit, because we know that, like I said, the population of sensitive people is only growing. Kids. You may not be sensitive, but maybe you've got kids around you that are, because the new kids that are coming into the world are more sensitive than any of the previous generations. So this
Exactly.
wisdom may not, it's like, if you've watched this far, this wisdom probably relates to you.
Yeah.
But if if you're somebody that doesn't feel like you're as sensitive, what about the kids and people? How can you help them? Maybe you won't find them acting out in certain ways if there's that. So we've covered a lot in this hour, and I'd love to hear from people in comments later on. As you've made changes, and what did you change based upon what we've discussed today, and
Yeah.
how did that help you? And or if there's any other wisdom for you folks out there to share with us, we always love to hear it too.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so thank you everybody for joining us today.
Yeah.
We'll do another one next week, next Thursday at the same time. And if you've got any ideas for any topics that you'd like to cover, now's the time to post them, and because then we can make sure we cover that next week.
Yeah.
And enjoy another session with all of you.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank you for tuning in. What Matthew said about, if you've got any questions, anything that you would like to ask us, please put it under here. If anyone's got any tips or anything they want to share with people with highly sensitive things, put it in here as well. What we've said today, if it's inspired you or you think it can inspire other people, please do share it. If you want to contact me or Matthew in any way, that is possible via Facebook. I wish you all a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us. And instead of reacting to your life through sensitivity, take charge and make the state that you want to go through this day and enjoy your day. Okay.
Through sensitivity as well.
Yeah, through sensitivity, and treat it as a gift. So
it absolutely is.
Thank you very much, everybody, and take care.
Thanks, everyone. That was fun.